listening to TMZ Movie Crashers.
Welcome back to TMZ's Movie Crashers. I'm your host, Fabian Garcia from TMZ.
I'm your host, Paige Catton from toofab.
And there is a lot of movie news this week. It was
really a lot.
It was actually toward the beginning of the week, not a whole lot, and then as it crept on, more and more news was coming out.
Every hour. It was
literally
hard for us to choose.
It was hard to pick. I mean, there's the Andy Garcia Father of the Bride reboot.
Yes.
Adam Sandler's in this new basketball movie that looks really
Hustle.
good.
Yeah.
Ray Romano's cast as Jim Valvano. There's a lot of stuff, but what we're going to start with today is the big motion picture, and we are going to start with sequels. And this question of whether it's too little, too late, emphasis on the too late. And of course, we're talking about the new Avatar trailer that just dropped via, I think it's 20th Century Studios, which is owned by Disney. Avatar 2, The Way of Water, the trailer is out. The movie's coming out later this year in December. And the trailer actually premiered at the Doctor Strange movie over the weekend.
And it first premiered at CinemaCon last week.
Correct. It was at CinemaCon first, and then it premiered not premiered, but it was screened at the Doctor Strange showing. And now it's officially online everywhere. You can watch it. And a lot of people have watched it.
A lot.
I think Disney just announced this morning that about 148 million views of this trailer within the 24-hour window of when it first came out is insane.
More than all of the recent Star Wars films,
literally.
Which is insane because, those felt much bigger to me.
Yes.
So that's just mind-blowing.
So that just goes to show you that, yes, people are still interested in this movie. But here's my thing. Avatar 1, I should say, came out in 2009. Back when I was in high school.
How old were you?
I was in 2009. At the beginning of 2009, I was 17. And that, I think that was the beginning of my senior year or something. I don't remember. But I was essentially a senior in high school. That's when Avatar 1 came out. Obviously, it was a smash hit. I think it's still the highest grossing movie of all
went
time.
Above it for a little bit, but then Avatar got back in theaters and took over it again.
So Avatar is king, obviously, in the movie world. And it was a big deal at the time. The technology was groundbreaking.
Isn't that when 3D was a
3D was first introduced in Avatar.
Yeah.
That's when 3D glasses have kind of fallen out of style, I think, when it comes to movies.
I hate 3D.
Yeah, that fad did not stick around. But now, literally, I'm not good at math. What's 2022? Is it 20 years or 10? It's
13 years.
13 years. Oh, there we go. You're better at math than I am. So 13 years later, James Cameron and company are finally coming out with Avatar 2. And look, the trailer is amazing. In fact, before I go any further, we have a little bit of the trailer that we're going to play. It looks amazing. It sounds amazing. Let's have a look at what it looks like. So there it is, the first 15 seconds of the new Avatar trailer. And again, it looks amazing.
Yeah.
Visually, it looks
stunning.
Stunning. That's a great word for it. So, I mean, the thing for me is it's too late. You're too late. You've missed your window. I don't have any interest in Avatar. I mean, I'm going to see it, obviously, because it's big, the big movie. But as far as my actual interest in going to see it, I'm not that intrigued anymore. You've waited too long. You can't... And now, this is just for Avatar. They've waited only 13 years. There are sequels coming out now that are 30 years in the making.
I know. I think there's how many? There's 3 more coming out for Avatar.
Yes, so that's what I'm saying. So not only is Avatar 2 coming out this year, which they waited way too long, in my opinion, just to release in the first place, but there's 2 or 3 more Avatar movies after that are coming out. I think there's 5 movies total that they're doing.
Oh my God.
And I got to be honest, I don't even remember anything about this movie.
No.
I don't remember what's the world that they live in, Narnia or something?
Pandora.
There we go, Pandora. See, that's what I'm saying. I don't remember the details of this movie. I don't know who the characters are. I know Sam Worthington's in there.
What else has he been?
Yeah, exactly. Where's this guy been for the past 12 years? Zoe Saldana's going to reprise her role.
There's some good, Kate Winslet, Michelle Yeoh. We got some Edie Falco. There's some great actresses and actors coming in. But I agree. And usually, I feel like more often than not, I hate to admit this, but I feel like you're the opposite. But I usually agree with public opinion when it comes to things like this, popular films. Okay, think Marvel, that kind of thing. Okay?
Yeah, I'm a regular contrarian when it comes to that type of stuff. Yeah.
I mean that's a fact. Come on, let's be real. Yeah,
But go on. I'm listening.
So But I agree with you. Like, I mean, I don't know. It's because maybe we were too young when it came out. Because I was like a freshman or sophomore. Like, I'm a year or two younger than you. But I like remember when it came out, I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. But then like, can't tell you anything that happened.
Right.
Haven't watched it in forever.
Neither have I.
Like, I mean, I think there's some cool thing at Disney World. Like, that looks kind of interesting for Avatar. But like, it's not like I've been, oh my God, I'm so upset that they've been postponing, the movie. No. And like, I'm like, cool, like whatever. And I'm like, by the time this comes out, I'm not gonna be interested. And yeah, here I am, not interested. Like the trailer, again, stunning, breathtaking, amazing, amazing special effects. And I feel like the one thing when it came out that was so incredible about it wasn't just the story when the first film came out. It was because it was this technology we hadn't really seen before. Not just 3D, but in film. Yeah.
I think that the technology was a bigger deal than the plot or
100%.
anything.
And that's why now I'm like,
it was a visual spectacle to go see Avatar. That's what all the buzz was about.
Exactly.
Oh my God, this movie looks amazing.
But apparently people are interested in the story. I'm like, I'm not.
I don't even remember the story.
Me
I don't know. I don't even remember it. From what I can sort of remember, like it wasn't even all that groundbreaking of a story. It was a very basic story. Like, it's like, oh, like a human kind of takes the avatar of this like alien species or something. And
I think that this one's all going to be in like an ocean sort of setting, apparently.
With a way of water. Yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, I don't know.
So here's the thing too. So even though Avatar is, in my opinion, 13 years way too late to really kind of get the big interest out of me, or I would argue the general public, there are films that are worse than Avatar that are committing this sin to a greater degree, including Top Gun. Top Gun is coming out, I think, in a week or two. Top Gun, the original, came out in like 86.
Yeah.
And now the Maverick sequel is coming out like 30 years later, just about. Like, that's insane to me.
Okay, so I did a lot of deep thinking and reflecting about this. So I think it has to be, this is how I think. I think it has to be within I think there's 3 factors. There has to be the right amount of time.
Okay.
Not necessarily like I think it needs to be within a couple years or something like a long amount of time, such as Top Gun.
One or the other. So it can either be like the short window or the very, very long window.
Exactly.
Nothing in the middle is going to work.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I think that, I think Avatar is in
that middle
window.
Yeah.
So because of Top Gun, I think if
in something
like Dirty Dancing, they're gonna have a Dirty Dancing sequel.
They're doing a Dirty Dancing sequel with Jennifer Grey coming back as Baby.
I know.
And like now she's gonna be the instructor.
Yeah, okay.
I don't give a shit about
Dirty
this.
Dancing, I have different feelings about than I do about Top Gun.
Okay.
But I think when it comes to these sequels, they have to have the right amount of time between films, public interest, which obviously Avatar definitely has.
Sure.
And Top Gun has, and a good story that will be a continuation and honor the original, but also bring in new viewers.
Right.
And something like Top Gun, it has been long enough because I never saw Top Gun until like a couple weeks ago.
Right.
And because I never watched it when I was a kid. And so now I'm really interested in it. So if you're bringing in like
a new generation, right.
Then I guess
it makes sense.
I think that works. It's been enough time. And like for Top Gun specifically, we're going to talk more about this when the film comes out, but Tom Cruise had been approached for sequels in the past.
And he turned it down.
And he turned it down because he said, I want to wait until it's the right story. And 2, the big thing was that he wanted to wait till technology evolved enough so we could have practical, no CGI shots, no green screen for the when they're in the air, when they're in the planes, when they're flying.
Right. And I think actually a lot of the pilots, a lot of the actors in this movie are in fact like flying these planes.
Yeah, so they have like a Navy aviator like with them, but they had to do the cinematography. They had to like do the lighting and like roll the camera.
Inside the planes.
They're in the planes. Like
yes,
Glenn Powell says like he was puking every day. Like it was which is, and they went through all the training and everything too. So I feel like, and people say the reviews, or reactions so far say it's incredible. Like even better than the first one. So I feel like it has to be a good enough story,
right? And
people have to be, want to watch the film that hadn't even seen the original.
Sure, I would agree with that. The other
does that make sense? You know what I mean?
It does make sense. Another thing I sort of see, this is the cynical side of me. I kind of see Hollywood as cheap.
Okay.
Cheap in the sense that they're banking on just nostalgia. Like, you know what I mean? Like Top Gun and Dirty Dancing. These movies are like just 80s iconic movies that really like movie lovers from that generation know and love. And I think they're trying to do 2 things. They're trying to appeal to a younger, newer generation of viewers, but they're also trying to draw back those old school movie watchers. Like, hey, you come back to the theater.
I'm going with my dad to see Top Gun.
That's what I'm saying. So like, I mean, like they're making the movies. That's fine. Time will tell if there's an actual interest or not. Especially for Dirty Dancing. That one's like it's a cult classic, but like I don't know if it doesn't have the same appeal as like Top Gun does, because that's like a big spectacle too. Dirty Dancing is like it's a dancing movie. Like,
and also,
there's been thousands of those that have been cranked out since.
And I think what's also weird about Dirty Dancing, and again, I love
Patrick Swayze's not going to be in it.
Hello, and I love Dirty Dancing.
R.I.P. Patrick Swayze.
Yes,
Jesus.
of course, and I love Dirty Dancing. I think that's a film that like. If they needed to do a sequel, they should have done it like when Patrick Swayze was still alive. They should have done it like within a couple years. Again, that window, that sweet spot.
Right.
But I feel like that film, it doesn't work 30 years. I mean, who knows? The film could be amazing. We don't know. But I don't feel like that film doesn't work like Top Gun this, 3 decades from now as like Dirty Dancing. I don't think that's going to do the same. And also, the weirdest thing about Dirty Dancing, I just have to mention this because I just kind of is ridiculous and I hope they change this. The title. Dirty Dancing, not Dirty Dancing 2, not Dirty Dancing Baby. I don't know, like
Baby comes back.
Baby comes back.
Baby, I'll be back.
Can you imagine like going to the movies and be like, oh, what are you seeing? Oh, I'm seeing Dirty Dancing. Oh, so you're going to like Cinespia, like old classics night? Oh no, the movie theater. Like,
so I'm sorry, I must have missed that. So you're saying that they're keeping the same title?
Yes.
That's weird.
It's so dumb.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense at all.
That's so confusing.
It is confusing. It's sort of like a reboot / sequel. Like that's another thing Hollywood's doing. A lot of reboots / sequels. Like they're like restarting the franchise, but it's also a sequel at the same time.
Reboots is a whole separate conversation.
For sure.
But I think, like, come on, if you want it, you have to make it different enough. And again, I keep feel like I'm defending Top Gun even though I haven't even seen it.
Right.
It has to be different enough that it's a new story, but connects enough to the original. Where I feel like Dirty Dancing, I'm like, do we really need another one?
And you're right. Like, again, the fact that Patrick Swayze is missing from that movie in and of itself, it just takes away some of the magic, I think. Yeah. Like, Jennifer Grey is great and everything, but like you and Patrick Swayze are that movie. Like you can't really carry on, in my opinion, the legacy of that movie without Patrick Swayze. We'll see what they do. On the issue of sequels, one sequel that I hope we never get to see, and I know Chris Kattan feels differently about this, but Night of the Roxbury, we actually got him at LAX this week, kind of talking about sequels, and he's all in for a sequel for that classic, iconic movie with him and Will Ferrell. Will Ferrell, it doesn't sound like he's spoken to Will Ferrell about it. Chris Kattan's all in on it. I don't know what he's really got going on in his professional life. I know
he was on Celebrity Big Brother.
Yeah, but Will Ferrell's busy. Like Will Ferrell's like, yeah, but here's Chris Kattan speaking on a potential Night of the Roxbury 2. Let's hear what he had to say.
I mean, so many people do talk to me and ask me about, is there going to be a Night at the Roxbury 2? And I think it'd be fun. How do
you see that? Like, what do you think the storyline would be all these years later?
I think we'd see where we are at this point. He's probably married to Molly Shannon's character, and I'm probably, I don't know, in prison.
I like it.
My character is.
So there's Chris basically saying, yes, people are always asking me about a sequel.
Are they though?
Who knows? He's probably bullshitting us, to be honest. And he says, no, I haven't spoken to Will Ferrell about it. And we were like, oh, why don't you reach out to him? The reason he hasn't reached out to Will Ferrell about it is because Will Ferrell has probably told him, I'm not interested in doing a sequel. So I guess the moral to that clip and the moral to the story is some sequels work, some sequels don't. And you're right. I think there's a kind of a formula on how long you can wait. And unfortunately for Chris Kattan, I think his window has sort of expired for Night of the Roxbury 2. So anyway, we will see. We will monitor Avatar 2 and see what comes of that. But with that, I think we can move on to our next segment, Casting the Light. And this one was hard because there was so much casting news this week. There was the Macy Williams thing. There was the Ray Romano thing, like I mentioned. But the biggest thing that I saw that most people were talking about.
This was trending on Twitter.
It was trending on Twitter. Yeah. It's a big deal. And even though it's technically TV, it ties into movies because they made a movie about this. This has to do with the Percy Jackson and the Olympians new casting that they're doing for the TV show for Disney Plus. They basically cast. I don't remember all the kids' names. They cast like some. Do you know the kids' names by chance? I know who we're talking about. We're talking about Leah.
Basically, they casted.
There they are. Okay.
The main three. So Leah Jeffries is playing Annabeth, and then I forgot his name, but
whoever
he's playing
this
Percy.
handsome young kid is, he's playing Percy,
and then he's playing
Grover, right?
Yes.
And okay, great. So the outrage is over Leah Jeffries playing Annabeth, who in the book is portrayed or described and depicted as a white girl, right?
Alexandra
Daddario
played her in the films.
So the bottom half you're seeing here, this is the original cast from the movie that they made, I think like a decade ago or so.
They made 2 movies,
right?
But they were in the movies.
So now they're doing the TV show version of it. Leah Jeffries has been cast as Annabeth, like I say, and the outrage is that why did you cast a black girl in this role? Like, so
it's horrible.
It's horrible because the thing is, I guess that has sort of become people bullying her and like harassing her, and like just this the conversation around her casting has gotten toxic and racist, and it's very sad. I mean, even
how young she is.
She's a 12-year-old, and the author himself of the original series of books came out and strongly in her defense.
Who was involved in casting. I believe he's also a producer.
He was.
On the series.
He's directly involved in casting. So he came out with this very long open letter to his fans and said, cut the bullshit. Cut it out. Stop bullying. Stop harassing Leah Jeffries. I think the title of his piece is Leah Jeffries is Annabeth.
Yeah.
Like, take my word for it. I was there. I've seen her do the audition.
Like, she embodies the character.
She embodies the character.
This is who I wanted.
Yes, and I'm going to read a little bit of what he said because it was pretty powerful. So
it was.
Rick Riordan said this. He wrote, "You refuse to believe me, the guy who wrote the books and created these characters, when I say that these actors are perfect for the roles because of the talent they bring and the way they used their auditions to expand, improve, and electrify the lines they were given. Once you see Leah as Annabeth, she will become exactly the way you imagine Annabeth, assuming you give her that chance." And then he goes on to say, "You are judging her appropriateness for this role solely and exclusively on how she looks. She is a black girl playing someone who is described in the books as white. Friends, that is racism." So
plain and simple.
Yeah, plain and simple. I have one little thought on this.
Okay.
People that are harassing her or bullying her or hurling any type of racial anything like that's unacceptable and inappropriate and in fact racist. But I'm the idea of fans just questioning like the casting, like just openly like, oh, like why did you guys go? Because she is described as white in the book.
Okay.
So they obviously made a different choice. So I don't think the idea of people bringing the issue up itself, in and of itself, is racist. If you expand and you go further to harass, to belittle, then that starts getting into racist stuff. But like the idea of in and of itself of just questioning the casting choice, I don't really see an issue with that in and of itself. But I don't know, am I off base there?
Okay,
or
so I kind of get where you're coming from, but okay, as someone who I love a lot of like book to movie TV adaptations,
right?
And when an author is the person who's involved in casting, if the author is involved in casting, I don't think fans or anyone has a say
right.
or has the right to even give an opinion. Because if the author says, because this is the character, this is like who embodied the character I created,
right?
This actress or actor is this character, then final say. No one should even question it.
Really?
Yes.
I don't know if I necessarily agree with that.
So like, for example, this is television, but I'm a big Bridgerton fan. In the books, all the characters are white.
Right.
So in the first series, the season they had and in the second one they have black actors. The second one they also had Indian actors.
Right.
So
wait, was that a book first or?
It was a whole book series.
Oh, okay, I'm tripping.
And,
okay, go ahead.
and they're all white in the books.
Okay.
So they're basically changing a lot of the ethnicities of the characters.
Right.
And most people it seemed weren't like upset about that at all. But if someone was, the author is cool with it. If she's cool with it, then no one should really question it.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's like because he in his piece here, Rick says, "You guys think that we did this just for diversity's sake? That we just wanted to check a box for diversity's sake?"
Yeah.
And it's, to be honest, like I'm not saying that that's not true or not. I think it's sort of disingenuous for him to say that diversity had no play in it at all. He's basically saying, no.
I agree with that. I don't
come on,
with
like
that.
really, like yes, people
were
in the room and they probably auditioned a ton of people. They probably thought she was great, and out of all the great auditions they probably had, they're probably like, yeah, let's give her a shot because you know what I mean. Like I think they did want to offer some representation, and that kind of gets to my next point because like there's a lot of this is going on where they're kind of casting characters that are traditionally depicted as like white with actors of color, like the Little Mermaid movie that's coming out. I think, is it Chloe or Halle Bailey who's Chloe?
I think
Chloe who's playing Ariel. Ariel she's a mermaid. That's a whole other conversation. Like mermaids, why are they're not of a human race, so it doesn't really make any sense to begin with. But she was cast, and people were all up in arms about that. Like, what the Rachel Zegler who is Hispanic,
being Snow White.
She's been cast as Snow White. So here's my thing. It's like, because I've been thinking about this, and like again, like people like just questioning the casting choice in and of itself, I don't really have a problem because, like, yes, like you're obviously going to notice a difference. Like it's going to spur some sort of like that's interesting. Why did you guys? You know what I mean? Like I don't see the issue of like questioning it in and of itself as a problem. But like if you start to actually get like angry about it, if it actually bothers you, that's when your true colors are showing, in my opinion.
I mean, I guess as a fan, I would say that like, because I kind of keep thinking of Bridgerton because it's most recent in my mind when it comes to book to television adaptations, or even like Dune, for example, too, book to film. But when you're reading it, and because now when I read Bridgerton and the characters are, you know, there's like a black actor playing in the book, it's described as white. So I have to like think of it like, oh, do I want to imagine it like the show, or do I want to imagine it like the book?
Right.
And so I guess as a fan, I guess that you're like, oh, wait, you know, it's not how I imagined it because it's not how it was described.
Right.
I guess, you know, you have a right to question it. Like, why did you decide to change that?
Right. Because honestly,
but if attacking her on social media.
No, attacking her is wrong, obviously. But like, I guess not to counter Rick's point, because like his point is valid, but like just to kind of like just offer a little bit of like a rebuttal a little bit is like,
I see that.
Dude, like if you really wanted to, if you actually think she's a sort of a colorblind sort of character, you should have written her as colorblind to begin with. You wrote her as white to begin with for a reason. So you're the one who f***ed up in the first place. You know what I mean? Like if you really want to make that argument, oh, she's like, she could be played by anybody. It's like, well, if that's the case, why did you write her as white? Like you specifically and explicitly wrote her as white for a reason. So why don't you explain that choice in the first place? Here's another point I want to make about this real quick. Actually, before I make that point, let's actually hear Leah Jeffries, because as a result of all this bullying that she's been experiencing, which by the way, shame on these people that are bullying this poor girl. Like that's one thing that everybody can just 100% disavow.
Shut up.
Apparently she's on social media. She has a TikTok account. She went on Instagram and said, hey guys, it sounds like you guys have gotten my TikTok removed. Let's actually hear her describe that.
Apparently my TikTok has been banned. And so my TikTok has been banned, and someone banned the account, and I now have no more TikTok. So I guess all the people that wanted to, like, you know, all the people that kind of did not want me to be Annabeth or something, they literally took down my whole account. So I now do not have a TikTok account no more, but that's not gonna let us stop us.
So good for her for maintaining the good attitude. But on the idea of, I don't know if trolls are able to get people's whole accounts removed. That doesn't really, I don't understand what she's actually saying or what
I know
what
I had
happened.
mentioned this to you just real quickly. TikTok is weird. Like, when it comes to
I don't have TikTok, so I have no idea.
TikTok's weird. I mean, people get banned for like stuff that like they didn't even do anything.
Can like trolls, if they wanted to, could they flag your profile or something?
Yes.
Really? So maybe they did in fact get her banned.
They can flag for like, or even on Instagram, same thing. You can flag for inappropriate,
and
offensive,
I'm sure
blah.
TikTok is sort of like programmed to like just automatically like do something.
Or it's flagged.
Right. And
yeah,
then eventually
like
a human's gonna look into it or whatever. But anyway, that's a shame. Like, it's a shame that if people are in fact bullying her. The other thing I wanted to say about this too, real quick, because sometimes I hear this argument from people, like the people that are like, that get kind of up in arms about the switching up of casting when it comes to race or whatever. One argument that they say is like, oh, well, they should just be writing new stories and new characters for black actors to play, like characters who are written as black to be portrayed by black actors. They should be doing that. That's true. They should be doing that.
And the Academy even has like rules.
Yes, they need to be making
to do that.
But here's the thing, like at this point in our history, like look, America is steeped in white supremacy is a strong term, but yes, we're steeped in we're steeped in whiteness. Like there's no denying
bad.
There's no denying that this country is steeped in whiteness historically, dating back to the fairy tales that we wrote, dating back to these. That's what I'm saying is that it seems up in, sorry, I hate to curse, but it seems screwed up in my mind that we're essentially telling like black actors and black people in general, like, oh, wait until there's a black character or a black story for you.
Yeah. I don't think that's right.
Like, no, that's not right. Like I've heard this said before, and it does matter, and it sounds cliche, but it matters. Representation matters.
100%.
And that the thing is, it's like these iconic characters like Snow White or like Cinderella. I can't believe I'm
Brandy.
blanking. Brandy. Thank you for saving me on that.
Yeah.
When Brandy was cast as Cinderella,
yes,
and who's like a historical fairy tale figure kind of thing. That was a big deal. Yeah. That mattered. You know what I mean?
Especially for.
So I guess just to finish my point. So I guess what I want to say is we shouldn't have to like we shouldn't have to have Black people wait. Like you don't have to wait for your
waited
own.
long enough.
As I'm saying, like if they want to play Ariel or they want to play whoever, let them. Like what fucking difference does it make? You know what I mean? Like it's not hurting anybody. Like it's not. You know what I mean? Because I hear that argument all the time. Like oh, they should have their own stories and their own characters written. It's like yes, that's true. Hollywood needs to do a better job of doing that going forward.
Yeah.
But of all the stuff because all these are IPs, like these big IPs and these big characters. You're telling, you know, we have like a Black Spider-Man now. We have Miles Morales. Like, you know what I mean? Whoever wrote that character, Miles Morales, I don't know when that was written for Marvel, but whoever did that, kudos to them because they had the foresight to see this is going to matter. This matters. We need to be writing characters early and often. And I guess I would just say that Hollywood and or whoever has come up with this content originally, they didn't do a good job of like looking to the future and saying, oh, we don't want all these white characters. You know what I mean? Like they should have wrote some characters of color a long time ago. Yes, they should have done that and they f***ed up. But anyway.
And when it comes to why I think off your point of representation matters, because yes, it does. I feel like especially for these IPs and for Disney princesses.
Yes,
kids,
Disney princesses for sure.
Disney princesses, Percy Jackson's kids. These are like little kids who are going to see these in theaters, going to watch this at home, and they're going to see someone who looks like them.
Yes,
I
and
remember
that matters.
even
like, people, it can't be understated enough. That stuff matters.
And it has to be. I feel like for kids, I mean, I think for all Hollywood, it needs to be
better going forward.
100%. But I think when it comes to young adult and kid content specifically, I think
there's a deep well of content there. Like Disney is like it's a deep well of content. Like we can switch things up a little bit.
There's no excuse.
What do you mean, like
to not bring more diversity into
I agree.
it?
And like again, like to your point, like Rick Riordan, he has said that he has seen Leah Jeffries audition. He said that she is the character. I still think that he's sort of kind of like trying to have it both ways a little bit. Kind of like it's like you're the one who wrote her as white, but that's beside the point. To the point though, like. She could eat. Yes, she can play the character. It's fine. It's not that big a deal. So, anyway,
it's not like it's not like Emma Stone playing like an Asian woman. Like it's not like something like that
for sure. So anyway, I'm sorry for Leah Jeffries. I'm sorry that she's going through that. Excited to see the show though when it comes out.
Because I actually really liked the first of the movies, but I didn't watch the second one. I like Greek mythology and stuff like that.
Right.
So.
Oh, by the way, Alexandra Daria, I don't know if we said that, but she shouted her out. She said,
I remember that. Yeah.
She said like, "Congrats to Leah Jeffries.
You're going to be an incredible.
You're going to be an incredible Annabeth."
Yes.
So she has gotten the cosign from the actual Annabeth who was portrayed on film. So there you have it.
Fans should back off. Like, look,
they need to back off.
Annabeth
Leave this kid alone, for God's sake. People are crazy. Anyway,
she's going to leave social media.
Yeah, she is.
The last thing
Although actually, I don't know. She seems pretty. She has a tough spirit.
Actually, you know what? You're
She's
right.
got a feisty spirit about her.
Honestly, I hope she keeps her head up, and I'm excited for the show. Yeah.
Anyway, after that very spirited debate,
we get a little heat.
I got riled up and shit. Sorry, but we can move on.
Energy.
We can move on to our next segment, the Hollywood Hoedown. We're gonna do it. This is these are breakout stories of the week, and the biggest breakout story of the week to me was the rumor, because I guess that's kind of how we have to hedge it. It's a rumor. It's a rumor / report that Warner Brothers is considering nixing Ezra Miller and replacing them with Dylan O'Brien as the Flash going forward.
Yes. Well, we talked about this too. So the report was very worded. It's very vague, very confusing. So it almost seemed as if they were suggesting that Warner Brothers wanted to replace Ezra in the Flash film that's already done.
Right.
And so people like Variety was saying, oh, that's not true, like they don't want to replace Ezra in the film. But the more you read it, it almost seems like, and would make more sense, they're talking about going forward.
They're talking about the future.
That would be ridiculous for them to even consider like redoing the film that's been postponed so many times.
Right,
so,
and the idea of redoing the film was actually debunked by a few different reporters, I believe. I think somebody at Variety debunked it and said they are not considering reshooting.
It's already there. Test shootings are going on this
The movie's
week
in the can already. They're already doing test screenings and stuff like that. So yeah, this article from I think Screen Geek it was.
Yeah, it was Screen Geek.
It was poorly written. It wasn't very specific about what they were talking about. All they were saying was that Warner Brothers sources are telling us that they're considering replacing Ezra with Dylan O'Brien. And Dylan O'Brien is a big actor. Dylan would actually be a good replacement for Ezra if that in fact is if there's any truth in that report whatsoever. I'm talking about going forward in the future. Dylan wouldn't be a bad replacement because Dylan has actually headed up some big like banner type movies or whatever, like Maze Runner, obviously. Like he's a big deal. He's been in Teen Wolf.
I have been sorry to interrupt you, but I'm really excited about this.
No, go ahead.
I love Dylan O'Brien.
Dylan O'Brien's a homie. He's
I've been
tight.
a Dylan O'Brien fan for a long time. I actually haven't seen The Outfit. I know you said that was actually pretty good.
Great, yeah.
So I've been, it's one of my celebrity crushes. I love Dylan O'Brien. I think he's incredibly talented, and I would love to see him in a superhero role. And I hate to say it, why, but I feel like I want more people to see him in like a bigger role.
It's weird though because he's been in big
movies. He has,
movies,
but it seems like they're not big enough.
You're right. Like because you mentioned kind of Dylan O'Brien in passing sometimes, and people are like, "Who? What? Huh?
Yeah,
Who's Dylan O'Brien?"
I'm like, let me show you and bring up his IMDb.
You know what's so funny? The reason I sort of registered Dylan O'Brien as like a person, because honestly, like I'd seen his face in movies and Maze Runner and stuff like that, but I never like connected his face to a name. I was like, "Who is this motherfucker?" I don't know. It was actually because of Curb Your Enthusiasm. I don't know if you watched that.
Wasn't he in an episode?
He was in an episode.
Yes.
There was a whole episode about Dylan O'Brien and how Larry David had a feud with him. That's how I know who Dylan O'Brien is. I was like, that's who you are.
Phenomenal actor.
Yeah, he's a good actor.
He's so talented. He like is great with, he could do like
he can do the big hero role.
Yes,
he can do
emotional
indie
he can
stuff.
Do comedy.
He's a lot
really
of range.
Funny.
He's got a lot of range. So with that said, I could totally see him playing the Flash, but. And there was I saw other reports. I don't know if you saw this, but like different film reporters were saying that apparently Ezra and Warner Brothers have sort of spoken since this
I didn't see
all this fiasco stuff with Hawaii. Apparently they were saying that they've spoken and that Warner Brothers has been kind of hearing them out and kind of like, because apparently Ezra has been going through stuff, I guess. And speaking of going through stuff, just to kind of quickly recap, Ezra Miller has been getting in a lot of trouble out in Hawaii. They have gotten arrested twice. And we actually have the 911 call for one of those arrests. He allegedly threw a chair at a girl and hit her or something. The 911 call for that is pretty intense. Let's actually hear it real quick.
I have Ezra Miller at my house right now. We have been offering our home to him, and he came into our home and is threatening us right now. He hit me in the head with a chair, and I'm bleeding.
So do you need medical attention?
No, I don't need medical assistance. I need the police.
Anyway, so there's the 911 call. Obviously, that girl sounds very distressed. Yeah. And, I mean, look, Ezra has, in fact, been getting in a lot of trouble. Sounds like they've been engaged in a lot of erratic behavior. I don't know what's going on with Ezra Miller. And, they've kind of have a little bit of a history with this, like sort of like off-the-wall behavior.
It's not a one-off thing.
It's not a one-off thing.
Yeah.
If they are, in fact, going through something that might be the kind of the cause of all this, I'm curious to see. I'm curious to hear what that might, in fact, be. And, if Warner Brothers...
And if he is, if they are, I hope that they get the help that they
True.
need. Yeah.
And I'll be honest, like, Ezra Miller is actually a great Flash. Like, I love them as Barry Allen. I love them as Barry Allen.
Too.
Yeah. But just for the sake of, like, just kind of argument, if Warner Brothers was going to replace Ezra Miller going forward, because I think that's what we're kind of talking about. Like, if there's any replacement that's going to happen, it's
very
definitely going to...
hypothetical, but
very hypothetical, but it would be for going forward. And there's a lot of outrage because people are saying... Why would you cast Dylan O'Brien? You already have a Flash. Grant Gustin, who plays the Flash in the CW show, which I think is, I don't know if it's currently airing or...
I think there's like one more season or something
like
that.
Right, but like the show is going on right now, and apparently this guy Grant is great.
I used to watch The Flash.
Really?
It's a good show. I used to watch it.
Is he a good Flash?
Yeah, I think they did I want to say they did some sort of like meta thing where they had Ezra Miller and Grant Gustin in an episode
that's
cool. Or something like that.
Okay, so different
don't quote me on that. I'm pretty sure
universes.
they did something like that.
Right.
And so... I mean, I feel like would Grant Gustin really want? I mean, obviously, I don't know him personally, but he really, really want to do a movie after doing this show for
Of course he would.
Yeah, you think so?
Hell yeah, he would. Are you kidding me? He's a working actor, and he wants to be in a superhero movie. He'd be like, hell yeah, sign me up.
I mean,
pay
he's done this. I think the show's like 8 or 9 seasons, so it's been going on for a long time.
Right.
So to bring him into the the DCU is going through, they're reportedly going to do this whole overhaul and stuff. So I feel like if there was a time to replace the Flash, it would be now.
Right.
Especially if, like, who knows what's going to happen with shows in the future. There was even rumors about Dylan O'Brien being like Nightwing.
Oh,
who's like a Batman character.
Yeah,
but he shut that down. But like, you never know. Even nowadays when one actor says, "Oh yeah, I don't know anything about them,"
if anything, you should assume they're always lying. That's
100%.
How I approach it,
so when he said that he hasn't heard about it, I'm like,
liar.
Okay, liar. Yeah. So I mean, I hope that Ezra gets the help that they need.
Right.
If there is something going on, as the reports are saying, as you pointed out. But part of me thinks that it would be in Warner Brothers' best interest after everything that's happened
to shed them completely, maybe.
And
kind of shake it off.
And I say
start
that,
fresh.
and then I kind of go back because I think about Johnny Depp, and I think of how that didn't really work out so well for Warner Brothers.
Right.
So,
although I would argue that Johnny Depp, just from like my quick little Twitter like view.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I would argue that Johnny Depp has way more goodwill with like fans and people than Ezra Miller does right now.
That is a great point, and that's true.
People don't really f with Ezra Miller. They don't like them. Because they see them as like crazy, frankly. You know what I mean?
I think
and like
going back, you have to have the public interest, and the last thing Warner Brothers needs is more people getting mad and more backlash and all this stuff. And so I feel like it might be the best.
Right, maybe from
option.
just a basic PR stance, it would be best to just kind of dump Ezra Miller potentially. I don't know. If there is in fact something going on with them and they can maybe get themselves on the right track, sure, maybe give them a second chance. But if not, yeah, maybe you got to kick Ezra to the curb and maybe get Dylan O'Brien in there. Who knows?
Yeah. But I will say I am excited for this Flash movie.
Oh, yeah, I am too.
Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton's coming back.
Supergirl,
Yes.
Introduction of Supergirl in it. So
it's essentially going to be the Doctor Strange.
Very multiverse.
Yeah. And in fact, speaking of Doctor Strange, this is a perfect segue. So, lots of thoughts. The movie, that was the big movie of the week that came out this past week. I saw it.
So did I.
And it was good. It was good. And I don't like Marvel movies. It was really good.
Shook. But I honestly, when I left the theater and I was driving home and I was like, I wonder if Fabian actually liked that movie. Because I just had this weird feeling that you would actually like that Marvel movie.
I loved it. And the reason I liked it so much, because I mean, like, like the story's like whatever, frankly. I love the idea of Elizabeth Olsen's character as the Scarlet Witch, and she's out for like, not revenge, but she's out to like, I want my kids back and I'm going to get them by any means necessary. And then she killed a whole bunch of people and was ruthless. I love that. And like, it showed a different side of her as an actress that I don't think we've really seen just yet. It was cool seeing that in like a superhero capacity, but in my opinion, the true credit of that movie goes to Sam Raimi, the director. The style of shooting that movie and essentially shooting it as a horror movie, because that movie was fucking scary. It was scary. It reminded me of Evil Dead. I mean, like, even there's the Bruce Campbell cameos in there too. He does the whole hand with the evil. That's a nod to Evil Dead, because in the movie Ash, his hand becomes possessed, et cetera, beats him up. So that was literally a nod to Evil Dead, and he shot it like an Evil Dead movie, like just the cuts and everything. And that's why it worked for me, because of Sam Raimi. Like the story itself was like, like whatever, like okay, multiverses, whatever. But speaking of multiverses, we made this point last week with Liam and everybody. We talked about the idea of like cameos, a ton of cameos coming up. Sure enough, those cameos did in fact manifest. John Krasinski showed up as Reed Richards, as Mr. Fantastic. Another Captain Marvel showed up. Another variant of Captain Marvel showed up. Captain Carter showed up. And then Professor X showed up, and I think there was one other, Black Bolt, was it? I don't know who the hell that is still.
But he was in a TV show.
I guess he doesn't talk because he can like kill people with his echo chamber sound waves or something. I don't know. All those characters were killed off fairly quickly in a matter of seconds because of Scarlet Witch. She annihilated them, which was cool to see. But these are variants, so their deaths were meaningless. So they're essentially not the main versions of the actual character. And to me, and we spoke about this last week, but like, there's no stakes in Marvel, especially with all this multiverse bullshit. Like, oh, like one reality is here, but we can kill somebody, but it doesn't matter because they're still alive in this universe, and they're still alive in this universe, and we can just bring whoever we want, anytime we want, at our convenience. And that's not a good story. Like, you need stakes in a story. That's why when Iron Man died in Endgame, that was the end. He's not coming back. Robert Downey Jr. is not going to reprise that role, nor should he. His death mattered. And this multiverse stuff is making it so that deaths don't matter. Characters coming and going doesn't matter. Nothing means anything. It drives me crazy.
Okay.
Sorry.
I have thoughts. It's okay.
I wanted
to let you finish.
I get too riled up in this room sometimes.
It's really hot in here, by the way. It's really hot in here. It always is because the lights. Okay. So I have thoughts.
Okay.
So first of all, I very much enjoyed the film. Was it my favorite Marvel film? No. Was it in the top 5? No.
Okay. Ooh,
top 10? I'm not sure.
I haven't even seen 10 Marvel movies. I don't even think I've seen 5 Marvel movies, frankly.
God.
Anyway, go on. Continue.
So, since you liked it so much, I think you should watch WandaVision. Okay. Because, so Elizabeth Olsen was incredible, as you mentioned.
Yeah, she was.
Total, like, spectrum of emotions, and I loved seeing her as the villain, and I loved seeing, she has, like, so much heart towards her kids, which that's in the show.
Right.
So much love towards her kids, but she also is like willing to do whatever it takes to get them, even if it is turning bad.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought she couldn't even get better than WandaVision when it came to her acting ability, but she just knocked out of the park with the film, with Multiverse.
So you've seen WandaVision, right?
Oh yeah, I've rewatched it again.
You know how last week we were talking about this concern that apparently they didn't honor the character? Okay, they did or they didn't?
Okay, so yes and no. Okay. Because I think my concern was that like they were totally gonna like ignore her arc in WandaVision. They did not. They went off of it.
Okay.
However, the big thing that I think why some people had mentioned that was a concern, because this isn't really a spoiler because now you've seen Doctor Strange too, but in the WandaVision, in the finale, she becomes Scarlet Witch, but she's not like evil. Like she has like she has like the Book of the Damned, but you don't really know what the Book of the Damned really is. But and she is like astral projecting, or maybe she is dream walking, whatever it was called. We didn't really know. It's in the end credit scene, and she hears her kids, and that's how the show ends.
Oh,
so it just like
she's removed from that world, but still remembers them in her mind.
No, she's
somewhere.
like going through the multiverse, like, or we didn't know what it was, but she's listening for them, and there's like all these like red things. So now
this movie,
when you get that time, you're like, what is she doing? And you don't really realize that she's evil. So I would have liked maybe like 20 minutes or so of just a little more of her like evolving into a villain.
Right.
Because we kind of saw
it happens right off the bat.
It happens right off the bat. So it's almost like
Doctor Strange goes to see her.
Yeah, and then she's bad.
Yeah,
and she's
bad.
evil.
And the red is everywhere.
Yeah,
like,
so I would have liked
crap.
just a little bit. So, you know, some people like, I saw someone compared it to almost like Game of Thrones, which is a much extreme example of like we saw Dany become the Mad Queen, but it happened like so fast. She went from being like, I'm the people's queen to like, I'm going to kill everyone. So it almost was like,
That's a very good comparison.
It is. And it was that, but that's a more extreme version. Sure. We got a little, I mean, you know, Game of Thrones literally was like, okay, she's bad now.
I would argue maybe this was a little more nuanced.
Exactly.
Sure.
But I would have liked maybe just a little bit. Was it a little bit more of her
like maybe
evolution?
a scene of her by herself, kind of like before Strange shows up, because as soon as Strange shows up, that's her. That's the introduction of her
Scarlet
character.
Witch, she's evil.
Right.
Yeah. So I think just a little bit. But was it a make or break for the film? No. So I was surprised by how much I enjoyed the horror, because you know me, I am not a big horror fan. Well, it's more like horror films are hard for me to watch. I forced myself to watch them, but I loved the horror. Like it was eerie, and I loved the bloody.
Remember when she's coming out of the whatever with that cylinder? I don't know what it was.
Yeah,
she's like twisted
yes,
up.
I love that. And she was like limping and like and then I loved the whole like
that's Sam Raimi, by the way. That's pure.
When you
Sam
told
Raimi.
me that, I was like,
that's what Sam Raimi does.
I think you mentioned that, and I was like, okay, maybe I can like watch the Evil Dead movies now, because I really enjoyed that. Or I mean, there was that one jump scare that got me in the tunnel. That one, I was like, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, it's happening. But I enjoyed all of that. I thought it was great, and I hope that because in the Spider-Man, because he directed the Spider-Man films, the original ones.
He did.
And we didn't really get to see that kind of horror-ish.
Sort of. Like his style is sort of there in Spider-Man. It's kind of more.
I mean, the Green Goblin scared me as a kid.
Right.
So.
Like in the original Spider-Man movies, like Sam Raimi's like his imprint is there, but like it's not there.
Not like this.
Not like this. You're right. This is pure Sam Raimi. I'm happy that Marvel let him do his thing in this movie. Real quick, one last thing I wanted to say about Elizabeth Olsen. She had a lot of comments about Marvel movies, about this movie, because she's been doing a ton of press, obviously, and she seems to be kind of making conflicting statements.
She's definitely contradicting herself
a little bit. So, like last week, she came out in defense of Marvel movies / superhero movies, because this is like another raging debate about
Martin Scorsese.
Martin Scorsese
blah, blah,
kicked it
blah.
off a few years ago, basically saying superhero movies suck, they're ruining cinema. I kind of tend to sort of agree with that a little bit, but anyway.
Conversation for another time.
Yes, but Elizabeth Olsen sort of pushed back on that and said, no, these movies are meaningful. These movies have they have deep characters. Like some of them are in fact character studies. And like to her point, this movie very much, I would argue, was a character study of the Scarlet Witch.
I would like to note about Wanda, just so you know this, her character throughout the whole MCU has been about grief. So much of it has been about grief. Right. So her character specifically has had probably the most like emotional depth.
So that's what I'm saying. There is some gravitas there to these performances, to these stories, and that's what Elizabeth Olsen was sort of saying in this interview. So that interview came out last week, and then another interview came out this week through the New York Times, I believe.
Yeah.
And she essentially sounded sort of resentful about being tied to this character in the MCU in general, because when you're an actor in one of these movies, you're tied to contracts, and there are certain windows that they block out of your schedule. Like, okay, you can't shoot anything else from this time to this time. Sometimes it's like months on end, right? And she said in this new interview, I think it came out yesterday or today, she basically said, I've lost roles, roles that I wanted to do. She cited The Lobster as one of them, which was a really good movie. It would have been interesting to see her in that. But she said, I've lost work, interesting work that I would have loved to have done, but I couldn't have done because of the MCU. And she sounds she sounds a little bitter.
She's like, I had this job security, but I was losing these pieces that I felt were more part of my being.
Right. So there were some roles, like maybe more artsy type roles, like more serious dramas that she wanted to do. And that's sort of the double-edged sword of Marvel. Like it's great work, it pays well, it makes you an A-list star, but then it also, if you want to be the true artist and use the true artist, and you might perhaps be deprived of like work you might want to do. So I don't know. It was I don't know if I took that as shade toward Marvel.
Well, then she said when she'd asked if she'd want to do a standalone film in the future, and she said, I think I would, but it really needs to be a good story.
Right. Well, the thing is, too, it sounds like she's saying that Wanda/Scarlet Witch is not dead, because at the end of...
I don't think she's dead.
I hate... That's another thing I hate about these movies. Give me some...
Give
me some definitive ending, for God's sake. Stop leaving so many windows open.
Since we're running out of time, I need to mention this about that topic, because we talked about it last week, too. So I kind of I was first really concerned about Phase 4, thinking, where is this narrative? Like, it's not a linear narrative.
We should mention real quick, Phase 4 is where we are currently in the Marvel chapter. Like Shang-Chi is part of that.
Post-Infinity saga.
Yes.
So, and there's the television shows are all in Phase 4.
Right.
So I feel like there's something, WandaVision kind of, but Multiverse of Madness, Spider-Man No Way Home, and Loki were all directly connected, I would say, because of the multiverse.
Right.
But I have a feeling that Ant-Man Quantumania is going to have to do with the multiverse, because King the Conqueror, that's Jonathan Majors, he was in Loki. And you like Jonathan Majors.
I do like Jonathan Majors.
So,
he's great.
Yeah, and he's great in Loki. So I'm looking forward to Ant-Man 3 because of Jonathan Majors. But I am a little concerned because it seems like it's all over the place.
Yeah.
However, then I read something and I'm like, wow, I didn't think about that. But I also wasn't I'm like a bandwagon Marvel fan. I didn't watch when the first ones came out.
Right.
I was, in the 8th grade when Iron Man came out. I was like, this is kind of cool, whatever. But when Phase 1, Iron Man, Captain America, First Avenger, the first Thor, you're like, okay, these aren't really that connected.
Right.
But they had the stones. So that was the thing that connected them, because the stones were in a lot of the films.
Okay.
But, and Thanos popped up in some post-credit scenes with Thor and stuff. But they weren't super connected.
Right.
So think about this, and it was just mainly introducing the characters.
Right.
So Phase 4, we are kind of introducing these characters.
We're introducing a lot of characters.
We're introducing a lot of
Eternals
characters.
is being introduced. There's a lot of stuff being introduced.
And then also, you think about Endgame, it was over 20 movies before they got there.
Yeah.
So we're only 5 films in, a couple TV shows. So I'm like, okay, I feel like Kevin Feige, he's really smart. I don't think he's going to let this just go off the rails.
No, he's not. They recently did you hear about them going to some kind of retreat recently? He brought a ton of Marvel executives. They went off for an entire weekend.
He's smart.
They had a whole retreat dedicated to just planning out and mapping out the future of Marvel. To your point, though, I think sounds like there's going to be a lot more Marvel movies, which I'm not necessarily looking forward to, but...
Well, I know.
Anyway.
One film, the last thing I want to say is a lot of people are talking about Secret Wars, which apparently is a comic that...
which was alluded to in this movie because of all the incursion talk.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and then, we saw Charlize Theron pop up at the end, and we've seen King the Conqueror. We don't know who's in Loki. We don't know who's going to be the big bad, if there will be one.
Right.
But I guess in Secret Wars, because I looked it up, apparently... a bunch of incursions happen, and then there's this battle world that was created.
Essentially, all these heroes exist in separate worlds, and they have to literally go around killing each other, because if they don't kill that world, then they'll die. So eventually it ends up being with just 2 final worlds,
and they're
and then it's essentially
full on
it's
battle.
It's superhero A's, superhero B's, them just fighting it.
But it's Avengers, it's Fantastic Four,
right? It's X-Men, it's
Deadpool,
everything.
It's all of them.
Everything under the Marvel umbrella is up for grabs in that. And if that's in fact the case, that it's another Endgame type of thing.
Exactly.
Right.
But of course, and then I'm like, oh, well, they haven't, even mentioned that. And I'm like, well, think about it again.
Yeah.
Endgame came 20 years.
This is a marathon. This is a marathon. It's not a sprint. There's a long way to go. With that said, I love Doctor Strange. It was great. And shout out to Sam Raimi, because he made that movie.
I love John Krasinski as in there. I love John Krasinski as Reed Richards.
Anyway, we will leave you guys with that. Thank you for tuning in and following us. We're on Apple, Spotify, iHeart. We're on YouTube. Download us, stream us, check us out, and we will be with you next time. Take it easy. See ya.